Well, joining us now to discuss this a little further is the EFF's Secretary General, Mr. Godrich Gardee. Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, and good evening and to you and to your listeners.
So happy birthday, 4 years on. Your march continues.
Well, the EFF is growing day in, day out, and it's becoming unmanageable, but within the constraints, we'll definitely make it through to 2019.
All right, so the weekend, highly charged, people excited. Could it be that those comments were made in that atmosphere, and now that you've had a few days to look back and reflect, that you might want to take back some of those comments that Mr. Malema said?
Well, it does appear that it's for the first time a political party has raised this matter into a public discourse. Neither of the political parties in South Africa that we know of have ever actually had the guts to raise this matter into a public discourse. And it has actually have to shake some comfortable corners somewhere there.
All right, so when you say raise this matter, what is the matter itself? Are we talking about Indians in general, or are we just talking about some bosses, some people that misbehave as they do in all race groups?
Well, we are speaking about racism in general, and in particular to our people in KwaZulu-Natal and specifically in eThekwini. We have spoken about racism which is actually done by other races. We have raised issues of black indignity, which is being visited upon our people. And we have spoken on these issues, even if it is done by our own blacks, in particular Minister Zokwana, when he was paying pittance to his workers who are heading his cattle in a farm somewhere in Eastern Cape. We have raised it also against blacks who are corporate managers and owners of big monopoly industries and mining industries, Patrice Motsepe, including the Deputy President in Lonmin. We have said it can't be that our people can be paid such low wages.
But the way that Mr. Malema spoke, he said that Indians are. He didn't say some Indians we know, he said Indians are. He says they're worse than Afrikaners, and given the history of this country, that's quite a statement.
Well, you need to have visited almost more than 20,000 households in eThekwini when we were preparing for this rally to actually have the capacity to appreciate the problems our people are going through in those communities, suffering in the hands of the Indian communities. What we need to do is to say, what did our people say as and when we walked into their houses about the atrocities and brutality and repressive, exploitative conduct of the Indian business community, in particular in eThekwini? Then we'll have really to
All right. Are you saying that there is widespread Indian racism on black people?
Absolutely, absolutely. Actually, it's not only confined to KwaZulu-Natal in eThekwini. It is actually found in the coastal areas of KwaZulu-Natal, where you find exclusive Indian communities moving from the spatial planning of the past regime, where races were actually put in different places, as it will happen in other towns in South Africa, in White River, where there is an Indian community, in Johannesburg, in Lenasia, in Eldorado Park. You must not be surprised about it, because as we are speaking now, there is a community somewhere in Eldorado Park which is marching against an appointment of a black principal. In fact, they would rather prefer an Indian principal than a black principal.
All right, let's talk about this and unpack it a little bit, because, 2002, Mbongeni Ngema gets into trouble. He did a song called Ama India. It gets banned by the Broadcast Complaints Commission. 2014, a young group from KwaMashu, a rap group, also sing a song about saying Indians must go cross back over the river. There does seem to be a historical tension, or is there a historical tension between blacks and Indians in KwaZulu-Natal in particular?
Well, we may not be interested in the historical tensions that we are actually aware of right from 1949 up to the instances that you are mentioning. What we are doing as the economic freedom fighters, we are introducing in a public discourse on racism in South Africa, particularly that one which is found in the Indian community, which has never been spoken about. None of the political parties, civil society, and quite a number of other formations have actually raised a public discourse in the context of racism and politically, not only maybe in one way or the other, which actually does not bring the decorum and modicum of a public discourse. We have introduced a public discourse, respectfully so.
So, Mr. Singh of Sanrem says that they're suing you. He did the same in 2011. If this issue is so big, why did Mr. Malema apologize back in 2011? And that was the only way that the case was withdrawn.
I wouldn't want to repeat the circumstances of that particular scenario, which I know of, and it was not necessarily similar to what we are talking about. It's something quite different to what we're talking about. This is a public discourse on racism in South Africa and racial relationship amongst races in South Africa. And primary to that is the economic power relations amongst the races and how Africans are treated with indignity by other races in South Africa. If we can say that about Afrikaners in Stellenbosch, where our people are still being salaried on alcohol or dope for all the labor that they have offered a farmer, so be it that we can also raise it with any other race, including the Coloureds, the Indians, and also our own blacks.
So where does this put the Timols, the Kathradas, the Pahads, the Godans, who died for this country, who were jailed for this country, who have contributed immensely for this country?
Those who know that they don't do it, they have got no cause for worry. Those who are guilty are afraid, because if we can unleash an inspectorate team there of Department of Labor and all other interested institutions to actually go and unearth the reality that we're talking about, talk to our people in the retail shops of the malls in KwaMashu, in Umlas, they will tell you that we always remain junior staff here. There are no whites in these malls. Management is exclusively Indians, and we don't get promotion. That's what the people said to us. They have said it the first time we were in eThekwini when we went there for the 2014 elections. They have said it in 2015. Our deputy chairperson of the province, Faita Shando, actually wrote an article about this matter. And he introduced a public discourse, which has always been ignored, and now the leader of the party has actually come out to say it needs to be confronted. Typical of EFF, we raise the uncomfortable truth and we need to actually deal with it as such.
Provincial Human Settlements Public Works MEC Ravi Pillay says that Mr. Malema is a dangerous populist, and there are accusations that your party is actually destroying the gains of social cohesion that democracy has brought.
In fact, he should speak about his most dangerous president, Zuma, who's actually stealing and finishing the country for the little that is left out of it, and decide otherwise as to how he can engage with a public discourse intellectually and politically, and find time to check, is what we're saying factually true, objectively truthful, or otherwise, than for him also just to come out and say we are saying things that we don't know about. Probably is even a beneficiary and a guilty party in those things. If we can go and check his domestic worker, his gardener, and all other his relatives who are actually salarying our black people.
What do you think is behind this tension or racism as you've described it? What do you think is, why do you think, you said it's widespread, why do you think there's this Indian on black racism?
Well, it's not only about Indians on blacks racism, it's actually all other races who do not see a black as a human being, but
this one in specific, you said this is the first time that a party has raised it as an issue. So let's talk about this issue, and it is Indians and blacks in KwaZulu-Natal specifically. What's causing it, do you think?
Well, like I have said earlier on, we have done a door-to-door around the communities of eThekwini. And amongst other issues that came out very clearly is this issue of the indignity that is suffered by our African people in the shops, in the factory floors, at workplace, in the public and private sector, wherein they are still not recognized
But why do they do
respected.
it? Why do they do it?
Well, racism is something else that we need to deal with. You'll agree with me that throughout the world, there is this actually a non-recognition of Africans as human beings of equal standing with other races, and we just have to deal with the racist and the racism that is found in any part of the world, and in South Africa in particular.
How do you plan to solve it? Have you started engaging with the Indian community? You've talked about business in particular, how they treat their workers. Have you started that process?
Well, we have started it by introducing the matter into the public domain, and we will be rolling out some activities, plan of actions, and other activities to engage with the communities through certain formations that are found there, the business formation of the Indian community, the professional formations of the Indian community, other parties which are predominantly with the Indian community in their membership and leadership structures. And we will also engage other structures that support democracy in the Republic in terms of the Constitution to go and check the issues that we're raising. And probably even an EFF government in 2019 may have to set up a specific commission to look at the issues that are being raised.
The Indian members of the EFF, do they share the same sentiment that the Commander-in-Chief has expressed?
Actually, not only EFF members of the Indian communities are sharing these sentiments that have been raised by the President. Actually, most members of the Indian communities are. We are receiving a lot of SMSs, emails and calls from Indian communities who says, we know the truth, we agree with you, get to the bottom of the issues. It can't be like this 23 years into democracy. Our people deserve better, and not what they are going through, worse than what Afrikaners will do in the Transvaal Agricultural Union farm owners and in Stellenbosch wine farms.
So why has it been a political hot potato that only you have dared to step into this space?
Well, we have always dared to raise issues that it has never been comfortable to raise in South Africa. And it can be, this one can be an exception. We should have expected this response from the public. And more so, we should know that those who are raising these issues against the EFF are actually beneficiaries of the status quo.
Is this not just going to make things worse? Because they're already angry now. How do you discuss and engage with someone that you've angered?
Well, we have not angered any person. We have raised a matter into a public domain. We need to engage intellectually and politically. We need to come up with programs of engagement and actually get to the bottom of the issues and deal and put in remedial actions to that regard. It's never too late, and it's doable, and we trust that the community will open up itself to such scrutiny, like we expected the African community to say sorry for apartheid crimes that they have committed against the African people.
Is the timing got nothing to do with the controversial Gupta family coming into the fray?
Definitely not. I mean, every time is the proper timing, because if it was towards 2019, you would have said it's an election, issue, and there are no elections around the corner. It has got nothing to do with the Gupta fiasco. We have dealt with that long time ago. In fact, day one when we went inside Parliament, we spoke about it. We are the first political organization to ban the ANN7 and Gupta media in our political rallies and activities, and the rest follows. We have said it long time ago what is happening in the Gupta family, and our president, long before any other president, actually had the guts to raise it.
No retractions, no apologies.
Oh, definitely. We'll meet in court and we'll argue our stand up to the highest court in the land.
Mr. Gardee, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much for coming in and sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you.
All right, that was Godrich Gardee, who's the EFF's Secretary General, sharing his thoughts about comments that have been described as controversial, has angered the Indian community in KwaZulu-Natal, and is now the subject of a court case.